we're going to do a collaboration of what we feel like what's going to happen in each division. And it's called the NFL Divisional Breakdown. So we're going to start with the AFC East. So we're going to get through the AFC East, and we're going to talk about exactly what we feel like they've done in the offseason, whether it was good enough, not good enough. We're going to rate them based upon who they picked up in free agency, who they let go. And we're going to rate their overall performance in the offseason, as well as give them a grade for that and give you our predictions on whether or not, where they're going to finish in the division. And as an added bonus, we're going to actually give you a answer to probably the most burning question when it comes down to the franchise and what they need to, and what the biggest question they need to answer going into the season.
Okay.
So starting with the Bills. So the Bills have had an interesting offseason. They lost Stephon Diggs, obviously. He was traded. He wasn't cut, but he was traded. They lost Tre'Davious White, Micah Hyde, Jordan Poyer, Mitch Morse was their center for a long time. But they also picked up Curtis Samuels, Mac Hollins, and Layout Collins, ironically, who's a bounce around guy from the Cowboys, and I think he was at the Bengals for a little while. So now he's with the Bills. And they also drafted Keon Coleman, wide receiver, in the first round. So they kind of really overhauled their receiver room, amongst other things. So I guess you can say, from that perspective, they did, pretty well as far as, gains and losses. And they finished first in division at 11-6 last year. So, so what do you feel like, it looks like for them, Coach Kurt, when it comes down to what they've done in the offseason?
Well, that's a great question. First of all, I think we have a media darling in Keon Coleman.
You love that dude.
I think he is he's just a superstar waiting to happen over and over and over again. I don't know how they plan on capitalizing. I don't know how he plans on capitalizing, but I know he's a rookie, but I would definitely offer him a weekly segment to go through the season, right? He's just naturally entertaining, even without trying. You just start smiling when you watch him, while you're watching him. And I definitely believe he's a dog on the field. So with Keon Coleman, he can make a lot of things right. Now, as much as he can make right, we're still waiting to see how the connection between him and Josh Allen will go. That's going to be key, because I don't know, without looking, I don't know who their second string or their second receiver is.
I'm glad you asked, because here's the depth chart right here. Glad you
Curtis Samuel, Khalil Shakir,
Valdez, and Chase Claypool was in there. Mac Hollins.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So MVS and Chase are over in Buffalo. Isn't that it? How far have they fallen?
I'm saying
MVS.
They both on their third, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah. And Chase, Mr. One time, I'm going to be the best receiver in NFL.
Right.
Yeah. So with that looks promising, but listen, the Bills have gone through a lot, and they have a lot to overcome. And so that's going to be difficult. I'm not going to say that's going to be difficult to watch, but that's going to be the tough part for them. They lost secondary, they lost receivers, and those people that they lost were high level impactful players.
Absolutely.
And so I'm interested to see how they, especially offense, when we was talking earlier, Josh Allen, when we was talking about CJ Stroud, now getting to Josh Allen, that is a thing that is worrisome about Josh Allen compared to CJ, because you've seen CJ play at a certain level. Josh Allen has played, but you've always had to hold your breath. you don't know what's going to happen. And
Right.
so to me, that is alarming that this far into his NFL career, there are certain mistakes he's still making and not learning from.
Right.
When you look at the running back position, James Cook came on, he started being utilized in a way that was pretty impactful. But then even when you look after him, you know, kind of waiting to see who are they and what they're going to do. You know, they lost some linemen, key linemen. So, you know, I'm not putting them last in the division, but I'm putting them one from last in their division.
Ooh. I compare schedules, and I wasn't yet ready to, you know, unseat them because of who they got to play in the division and how much dysfunction it is in the division. But it's going to be difficult because I do share the sentiment with you that Josh Allen, especially with the idea of having a reworked or brand new wide receiver room, he's going to, you know, the whole trust factor, you know, thing could play into it. You know, Keon is a rookie, although he has a really high, you know, skill set. You know, Khalil's been there and, you know, hasn't really, you know, been a favorite target of his. Curtis Samuel's brand new. Mac Hollins is brand new. Valdez Scanling has drop issues. You know, damn, his best and most reliable receiver is Dalton Kincaid right now. You know, going into it. So will that lean to the idea of Josh playing more hero ball is going to be the question. So, and that could get them in trouble early. If Josh tried to play too much hero ball early, because that's kind of what happened last season. He got into the hero ball, they started losing games, and when he started to calm down and try to rein it back a little bit, that's when they start to hit their stride and bring it back and run off like 6-7 straight, you know, to just make the playoffs. So that being said, you know, without void of a true number one receiver right now, that could lend to the idea of Josh trying to play more hero ball, and that could be problematic for the team. So, and on top of the fact that you don't have your center, you know, Mitch Morse is gone, who's been your center since you've been there. You know, McGovern's going to be your starter. I think that Van Prangrander could ultimately be the guy because that's what he drafted. He's a natural center because Connor McGovern was a guard. He's moving to center. So I think that could be a scenario who they actually have at center will be, you know, ultimately the, you know, make or break for the O-line. So it just depends on what their philosophy is going to be coming in, because I mean they were more run oriented last year, you know. So I think that if they're more run oriented this year as well, and leaning on that, and then passing, you know, from a timely manner perspective, they'll be fine. But that is the question. That's the question of what they're going to look like game one. Yeah. So speaking of that, the defense as well is a little bit of a shuffling. You know, they lost Trey White, like I said, they don't have that. I don't think they, you know, have that, you know, that you know, quote unquote, you know, number one corner, you know, in house at the moment. You know, they got some guys, but they don't have that true, you know, lockdown defender just yet. They haven't identified him. You know, Matt Milano's coming back off injury, so that should be helpful. But I do like that the kind of backfield areas that they had let guys go in certain spaces and let a couple of these tackles go, let a linebacker go, let a corner go, but they backfilled it pretty well. So it's just a matter of whether or not McDermott can, you know, get these guys to play well early. You know, Von Miller coming back, he should be 100% healthy. So Greg Russo's going into contract year, so he should be balling out. And then pairing up Dwayne Carter with Daquan Jones and Ed Oliver, I think that's a win up front. So we'll see how that goes. But, you know, and just a matter of who's going to play next to is Nick Morrow or my guy Idafolosu from Washington going to play the other linebacker spot. You know, so
what you said.
Right. Right. So so I do believe that that's going to ultimately dictate their front seven. And on the back end, I think that the Christian Benford, who they got, Taron Johnson, they locked up, who's a slot. They brought Taylor Rapp in, Rasul Douglas, they got in trade last year. He's another slot guy. And Cole Bishop, I do like Cole Bishop. Where they drafted, that's a really good pickup by them. Safety. I think he's out of Utah. So he's going to be a player for them. So it just depends on what the identity is going to be and who is ready to roll and ready to play week one is going to determine a lot, because they got the Dolphins in week 2, I believe. They got a decent game week 1, but week 2 is the Dolphins in Miami. It's going to be hot. So So yeah, get ready for that one. Get ready for that one, and that could loom larger. Who wins the division come December?
Got you.
All right. So overall, what do you give them from a grade perspective from their offseason reshuffling in their offseason program, from the free agency to the draft up to OTA? What do you give them a grade?
72.
No. Like a grade A through D.
Okay. I give him a C.
C, a solid C.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I give him a B. I
Mm.
I like how they knew the needs that they had, and they addressed them either in free agency or the draft. So they brought in quality players to fill in the guys that they left. Because I said early on in the offseason that they need to tear down and rebuild, and that's what they're doing. That's what they're doing. They got rid of Stephon, a few other guys. They were high dollar amounts, and they went ahead and replaced them with with quality rookies or younger guys. So yeah, Richard gave a C minus. Yeah. So with that being said, Rich, I want to hear what your thoughts as well. Yeah, I agree with that. The city player system is glaring. I 100% agree with that. So where do you feel like they're going to fit in the division? Where are they going to finish?
In the division, third. Well, a distant second.
A distant second?
Yeah, I'm trying to, because I was just trying. Nah, I really want to say third. I'm gonna stick with third.
Okay. Yeah, the Bills. Where do the Bills finish in the division? 1 through 4.
Where the Bills? Oh, you talking to Richie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, where do the Bills finish? But yeah, for me, I'm not ready to unseat them. I think it's gonna be a tight race. I think it's gonna be a tight race. But I looked at who I think is gonna finish second. Richard said second. They're gonna finish second. Okay. So it's between them and the Dolphins. I don't believe in the Jets at all. I think it's between them and the Dolphins. But the key point, and the people don't factor this in late in the season, the Dolphins got a lot of cold weather games at the end of the season. They play all their team. They play all their home games early with the cold weather teams that they would play twice. And they got a lot of late. They got to go to Cleveland, I think. They got to go to Buffalo, a couple other cold weather places, Green Bay. So they got to go to a bunch of places where it's going to be super cold, and that advantageous to that offense. So I think that the Dolphins might take an early lead on them in the division, but it might come down to the wire in the very last couple of weeks, and the Bills might edge them out. Maybe edge them out. So I'm not ready to unseat them yet. I think they're going to finish one, but it's going to be like it was last year. They're going to be 11-6. It's going to come down to head-to-head matchups. Come down to head-to-head matchups. Okay. Yep. The Dolphins will regress. Jets will likely win. Bills will do a strong second. Okay.
Wow. All
right. Well, speaking of the Dolphins, let's talk about them next. Well, we already know that. That's a Gizu, Rich. That's a layup. That is a layup. So let's talk about the Dolphins. They had an 11-6 season last year. They had some real bad injuries down the stretch that kind of derailed them, on top of the fact that the cold weather bit them real hard. But I forgot to get that question answered. So going back to the Bills real quick, the question of the moment is, will the offense regress? Do you think the offense will regress, Kurt?
Do I think it will regress? Yes. Their offense? Man, look, that's always a difficult one to say. And here's why. You're dealing with Josh Allen.
Yeah.
Listen, you can have all of the schematics and schemes and everything, but you're dealing with someone who,
reckless,
out of active young quarterbacks that you have in the league right now, he truly he's probably one of the younger quarterbacks that makes you hold your breath each and every time, because you don't know if he's going to go into press mode. Now, to his credit, the second half of the season, we saw a different Allen, gameplay, higher run to pass ratio.
Right.
We saw a different Josh Allen. He got away from being the
hero ball guy.
I think I think if I remember correctly, he had what, 7 consecutive weeks of an interception.
It was
At
something crazy
least
like that, but
it was
he
something crazy. It's either like a double interception a game or at least one interception a game. He was like 7 or 8 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So if we see the second half Josh Allen, then things are going to be good. That's going to put Buffalo in a great position. But if we see the first half Josh Allen, where he feels like he has to make every pass and every throw, and he has to be able to throw between 3 people and make these wild throws. That's why I put the Bills. That's where I put the Bills where they are, because you can't outcoach that, right? That is inherent. If it gets stressful, I'm gonna lean back to, what I'm comfortable with, and that is just slinging, running, gunning. I'm gonna throw into 4-man coverage, 3-man coverage. But here's the thing that could be a benefit: Stephon Diggs leaving. He may not have to feel now that he has to force feed one player, or he's worried that if he doesn't get the ball to him X amount of times, that he's going to be feeling some type of way. So, it could be a benefit that he's gone. But as Richie said, Richie Rich said, Allen has a beast mode and a reckless abandon mode, the former when he's on a legit top 3. Yes. So, offensively, I'm concerned, but I think they found something. And if they come back to that, I think that's going to be a huge benefit to Buffalo.
Okay. I think for me, I think it's a pretty even kill. I think they might go, it might be a down year from a passing numbers perspective, but I do think there's going to be an uptick in running, because I do like the fact that they got, James Cook, fresh off a good year, and they got Ray Davis in the draft. I think that 1-2 punch, because Ray Davis is a bruiser. He's a bruiser, so I think that he's going to be a thunder to James Cook's lightning. So I think that them running the ball and doing design plays for Josh and things of that nature, they're gonna be more run oriented, especially with, like I said, with Stephon being gone. So I do think if you're gonna have if somebody had to take a hit, it'll be the pass game. But I do believe they still are pretty productive offensively, for my money. All right.
Okay.
All right. So getting back to the Dolphins. So as we talk about the Dolphins in their 2024 campaign, they had a big loss with losing Christian Wilkinson. They lost Xavier Howard. They had to cut him. Lost Rob Hart to the Panthers, their star guard. They say, despite that they finished, the injury woes, they finished 11-6. They went out and got Kendall Fuller to replace Xavier Howard. They went out and got Shaq Barrett, and they're doubling and tripling and quadrupling down on getting edge rushers after losing Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb to injury last year. And they also got Jordan Poyer from the Bills safety to help their safety room in that space. And then in the draft, they went out and got another edge rusher in Chop Robinson. So there's no shortage of edge rushers and guys getting after the quarterback in Miami. But how do you feel about these moves, their gains, their losses, and their first round pick overall? And the question for this particular space is: will Tua's contract loom over the season?
So I'll start with the last question. Will it loom over the season? I think it's going to loom over the season, but it's not going to be from the Dolphins. I think Mike McDaniels is going to do a great job of keeping the main thing. And I think Tua, from what I've seen, what I've watched, what I've observed and heard, that he's going to avoid lingering on those questions as well. So I think it's going to be more us as sports analysts and podcasters, us talking about it and bringing it up. But I don't think you're going to hear much of it from, Mike McDaniels and Tua. I will give them credit when it comes from a maturity place, and even especially with Tua, I think he's just going to keep it close to the vest and keep the main thing. Now, when it comes to their losses and gains, I think it's a push. Christian Wilkins, I know, was, in some instances listening. He was a Draymond Green of the team. He was the motor. He was the fun-loving person. He was the person that pushed people. So I think with him leaving, they may have some type of impact. And then Xavier Howard, he was a hellified ball player. But overall, look, I think what the Dolphins did is get themselves back in contention once again, because they have a 4x100 track team already.
Yeah.
And then what they lost compared to what they're receiving is a push to me. So I think the Dolphins are in a prime place to capitalize on everything else that's happening. So I think this is the year we see them go first and they win the division.
Okay. Well, I see a lot of things could be at play here. Far as his contract is concerned, I don't think, assuming that they don't get it done between now and the start of the season, I do believe that it might be okay early, but the questions are going to constantly come, and it's going to get annoying late, especially when you compound the annoyance of the contract questions on top of if you're struggling at any point in the season. And
it changes if you're losing.
Yes.
The same questions hit different when you're losing.
Exactly. So I do believe that could play into it. And it could get psychological at that point. So, and especially again, if you start getting, to the point where you play these cold weather teams and you're having struggles, offense isn't clicking as much, and things are not going as well as you will hope for them to be, or you're injured, or whatever the case may be. Anything that gets frustrated from a football perspective, on top of asking those questions constantly, it can get annoying. So I do believe that can play into it. On top of the fact that, like I said, they lost and they gained. And I kind of feel your vibe when you say it was a push. In a sense, I'm not going to sit there and say that Kendall Fuller and Xavier Howard are the same player. I don't believe that. But you kind of balance the two with getting Jordan Poyer and Kendall Fuller, a 2-for-1 trade for losing Howard. So I do believe that can play into it. And the fact that, like I said, they quadruple down on getting edge rushers, and they'll have no shortage of that. There's an abundance there. So even if they take an injury or two there, they're still good. So I do like what they did there. So again, I do believe that they can have success. It's just a question of how good. I think ultimately it really boils down to how good can Tua be. I think that's where it boils down to. And that being said, I think that looking at their depth chart, they've got a plethora of everything, and I think they've upgraded. In from O-line perspective, they picked up Patrick Paul in the draft. He was a tackle in college. They might kick him inside. They picked up Isaiah Wynn from the Patriots. Austin Jackson and Teron Armstead are back healthy. Lane Eichenberg is there. So I think they got it. And then they went out and got John Smith. This was a solid, underrated tight end in my book. Former Charger, former Titan. So I think that they've upgraded in that perspective. Who's a guy who can block as well as catch the ball. So that coupled with the idea of them having Tyreek and Jalen, obviously. Odell. We don't know exactly what Odell we're getting. Or is Baltimore Odell, or is it what? We don't know. We don't know. If nothing else, if he gets his opportunities to get open, he will deliver for you. And the guys I talked about, they snuck off in the draft in late rounds. Malik Washington and Taj Washington. They snuck both of them speedy guys off in the draft, who both are legit 4-3 guys. So they got an abundance of speed. And then he talk about the running backs, Mostert, A-Chain, Jalen Wright, all who can run and run fast. So they've definitely got one of the more explosive offenses on the books. It's just a question of how they hold up, when the weather gets involved. That's really what it boils down to. But overarching premise is how good can Tua be with these weapons. And defensively, I think that, into Rich's point, their defense is going to be really good. They do have a different defensive coordinator this year. They moved off of Fangio, so they got a defensive coordinator, and that matters. You can have all the talent in the world, because we can go harken back to the Browns' struggles for the last 4 to 5 years up until they got Jim Schwartz. Jim Schwartz come in, all of a sudden they're top 5 defense. So the play caller matters, but the bodies he has to play with is top tier. Calais Campbell coming over, wily veteran, just a beast in the middle. Deshaun Hand, I mean, the list goes on, when it comes down to nose tackles. Like I said, Calais Campbell is there. Jalen Phillips, Bradley Chubb, Jordan Brooks they brought over, linebacker Shaq Barrett, Muhammad Kamara, who we like out of Colorado State. Channing Tindall. He's the linebacker that I highlighted last year in Sleepers. Chop Robinson, Duke Riley, Kendall Fuller. So they got bodies, and of course Javon Holland, who their Pro Bowl-esque safety they had hold over from last year. So they got studs on the defensive side. They do.
Right.
It just you got to piece it together.
You
got to piece it together. So that'll be a watching. I guess you can say things to keep your eyes on when it comes down to how they perform on the field. But they got the bodies. They definitely got the bodies to play well early. All right. So, overall, what is your grade for their offseason?
I want to say B, but I give them an A. Okay. I give them an A.
Yeah, I give them a solid B plus. I give them a solid B plus. I like it. I like what they did in the offseason for the most part. Again, it's really just coming down to I think how the DC performs and how the Tua performs is really the sticking points for me. But what it did transactionally wise, I think I give them a big B plus.
Okay.
So who do you have them finishing in the division?
First.
Okay. I got a close second. Okay.